like this. Looks a little bit like I can't miss. Ay, this is what you call a bad bitch. What? This is what you call a bad bitch. Looks a little something like this. Looks a little bit like I can't miss. Ay, this is what you call a bad bitch. What? This is what you call a bad bitch.
Good, because you
Oh,
guys
I
did
forget.
not. You guys totally missed me going off on
They
Pep
didn't
Pep right
need to.
there.
Yeah,
You're
they didn't need to
welcome.
hear
You know
that.
what?
Yeah,
Jesus
that.
was looking out for you.
See,
Jesus
I
was
told you
looking
God
out for
is
you. No,
watching.
I'm gonna go back. I'm gonna recap. All right, Pep Pep has
Oh, you
ADD,
go. God.
and he has
Yeah.
had. He keeps forgetting to take his medication, and I was fussing at him before the stream. We went live, and then I was explaining. I was like, for those of you who don't take medication for their mental health, you have to take it consistency. It's
Well,
like
aren't you special?
it's like birth
Mhm.
control. You have to take it every day for it to be effective, or it isn't effective. And then you wonder why you have mood swings and you forget things and why you're like moody, or you get why all of a sudden you just like forget or get, brain fog or whatever, because your brain
Mhm.
chemistry is off. So I'm not fussing at you because you're forgetting. I'm fussing at you because it is a necessary thing for your mental health and your
Mhm.
physical health that you take it every day and consistently, because that is what is the medication prescribed. And you are not doing things to keep
Yes.
yourself healthy. And I am your friend and I love you.
You fuss because you care.
I do. I do.
Yeah.
And
There's
there is.
apps for taking track of. Yeah. I mean, I could just use a calendar for that.
No,
There's
like
a reminder also. Yeah.
my iPhone has a medications reminder. It literally says take your medications and it'll list out your medications and when you need to take them and how and like how much.
Oh, nice.
Yes.
That's smart.
Mm-hmm. Because it's a smartphone.
Yeah.
All right. Now that I am done fussing at Pep Pep because he is not taking care of himself and I love him and I want him to take care of himself. Yes, yes, yes. Sometimes,
Mhm.
sometimes you need a friendly reminder that isn't so friendly so that you will remember.
Mhm.
You are obviously not a parent, so you don't get it, but that is very,
Yep.
very true. You can always tell the non-parents versus the parents because the
Mhm.
non-parents are like, "Why are you being so mean to me?" And the parents are just like, "I mean, you right." And like sometimes you just gotta. Anyway, welcome to waking up. Now that I am done fussing at Pep Pep for not taking care of himself because I want him to take care of himself.
Well, friendship goes both ways. So yeah.
Oh, how many times did you ask me if I ate this week? Okay,
Several. Yeah.
so
And
you can
and
keep
and
it. So sit down on that.
how many times did you eat properly this week?
I ate several times this week.
You ate properly, or you ate food? You ate proper food.
You know what? Semantics.
It's just words. You just roll up. You can put them anywhere. You can mix and match. It's fine.
Food is different than
Whatever.
medication, though. Anyway, okay, so let's get started. Now that we're done fussing at each other and our sounds on and we're not technical difficulty. Um,
That's a flex. Oh, come on, Nerdy Will. Come on. Jeez, I'm not winning this one.
Nope.
All right.
This is Waking Up. I am Anna, also known as Aroogs. Thank you, Paragon.
Paragon, Nerdy Will,
Handshot a
Tim
ticket. I am Aroogs, also known as Anna, and with me is my co-host and mostly best friend.
Person who doesn't take care of himself well.
Person who apparently needs me to remind him to be like a healthy human. I mean, it goes both ways. It really does. This is Sean, also known as Pep Pep, and this is Waking Up, and this is our show on religious trauma. It's a lot of trauma in general, but with a religious trauma slant. We do, but we often talk about things that aren't necessarily religious trauma, but we're coming to discover that a lot of it is based out of religious trauma. So here is our disclaimer. Here on Waking Up, we are not here to bash anyone's faith or religious views. We think faith and religion are beautiful things when done in a mentally and emotionally healthy manner. We are not licensed professionals whatsoever. We're not even close. We are not licensed therapists, counselors, life coaches, any of that. We have no certifications in this whatsoever. Anything said on this podcast is our own opinions, our own experiences. They are editorial only. Please do not take them as gospel because it is not. But if you do need help, if you do need professional help, then we do have some resources to help you get in touch with professional that can help you. So you can just contact us on @NerdMomAce on all the socials. Just message us or our Discord. We have a Team AOA Discord. and we would be glad to help you. Sean and I grew up in the Carolinas. The Billy Graham territory, the buckle of the Bible Belt in the 90s and 2000s, back when, all of those wonderful things like purity culture and martyr culture was rampant and like does absolutely gives us so hardcore trauma, some flashbacks, some PTSD. It's bad. It's bad. Like makes my eye twitch just thinking about it.
Mm,
So
yeah.
yeah. And for those of you who don't know, we are Southern Baptist, which is a very conservative evangelical. They're becoming way more conservative than we were. I didn't even think that was possible, but a
Right.
conservative denomination of the Christian faith. So yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I have
Wow.
been out of the church for a while now. I'm finally starting to deal with some of my a lot of my religious trauma. Sean, not so much. Sean has like 40 years of,
Oh yes.
shit.
Oh, so much. Yeah. Yeah. Interestingly enough, though, that although we have very different amounts of time that we've been out of the church, we still dealing with the things that we still deal with.
Mhm.
They're still there. They just because we left the church at one time or another doesn't mean that all of a sudden things get better. That's what we're finding is like these things. Like I know with you, you've been out of the church a lot longer than I have, but you're still dealing with the trauma that was put upon you by the church and by the family all those years ago. So leaving the church was helpful, but we still have to work through. I've still had to work
Are you
through
still
this
speaking for me? Is
trauma.
that what you're doing?
No, no,
Yeah.
sorry,
Yeah, you're absolutely
my
talking
bad.
about my experiences. Why don't you talk about your own?
Even though I left the church doesn't mean any of this just
There you
magically
go.
gets healed.
There
Let's
you
go with
go.
that.
Good
I was
job.
Yeah. All right.
You're gonna
I'm done.
you're gonna explain mansplain
No,
my trauma to me? Go ahead.
no, it wasn't to you. It was to the community. It was that regardless of the amount of time you've been out of church, it doesn't heal. It doesn't just automatically heal.
Right.
That was my point.
Yes, but I can speak from it. You were talking more. You were like, especially you. Like, you're gonna talk about me. Like, you have any clue what I got
Mhm. All right. So,
through? I'm in a mood.
you are. Yes.
I love you, Pep
All right.
Pep.
What are we talking about today?
Huh?
What are we talking about today?
Your favorite thing.
Oh God. All right.
I love how when I say that,
One
that's
of
what he like cringes, and he doesn't even really know. What are you talking about?
one of my favorite things.
Yes, yes.
These are a few of my favorite things.
Parts. We're gonna talk about parts today.
Oh, yay. Yeah.
I watched Inside
This
Out
is
too. If I'm gonna be traumatized, every motherfucker is out here is gonna be fucking traumatized. Let's go, bitch. Like,
yeah.
so hey, you want to tell us what parts
Mhm.
are, Sean? You want to tell the class what it is?
So I learned about parts in terms of IFS and interfraternal systems. Inter wait, interfamily systems. Oh my god. My brain is just farting. So I've always spoken to myself I've always talked about myself as parts. So it was very easy to understand and transition into IFS where we have we are made up of different parts. We have made up of different I sometimes call them voices. Made up of different voices. They're when you experience something, when you have emotions come up, when you hear a lot of times we speak about voices because that's really what they feel like. The thoughts that we have. When all of a sudden you become you feel fear, you feel anger, you feel an emotion, there's a part of you that wants to be heard, that is trying to be heard, that is telling me something. And so parts, none of these parts. One thing that I had to learn and understand is that none of these parts are bad. Because I initially when I started, I looked at it as like this part is trying to do this bad. No parts are bad. They're just trying to do something to help you in some way. they're trying to a lot of times protect me in some way. And so parts is all the different voices, thoughts that you have, the protectors that you have that want to, you're afraid, you feel fear because this part of you is saying, don't do this because this thing might happen. So it's all about what parts make up. I liken it to what Doom Patrol and the one lady in Doom Patrol that has all those different inside her head, all those different people, all those different voices.
But that's
The
DID.
different
That's very different.
That's different.
Dissociative
Okay.
identity disorder. That is different
Well,
personalities. Yes, it's very similar, but you have to.
okay,
But
yeah,
if you're
you're right.
going to
That's
explain a mental thing, you have to explain that if you're going to liken it to that, like that is a mental disorder. That is a very
okay.
real mental disorder. Is she has DID, which is dissociative identity disorder, which, as a lot of the layman's term, is multiple
Yeah.
personality disorder. So that's
So
a little different.
that was a bad comparison. You're right. That was a bad comparison. So there are parts of you that are trying to tell you something, protect you from something, speak to you about something. They want attention, and it's how those parts work, how you deal with those parts, and how they work together, and to make up your mental health.
Mhm.
Yeah, there we go. That's my
Uh,
explanation.
yeah. And what do your parts work?
Um, how do they work? When we start dealing with parts in therapy, um, there's a lot of personification to it. He'll say, tell me what that part sounds like. So I feel, I feel anger. It's like, okay, well, what do you hear? What does that voice sound like? What does that part look like? So there's a lot of personification to it. Is it is um and understanding, really trying to put something more concrete to personifying this emotion and what it's trying to tell you. Um, and how loud is that voice? And so I find it really interesting when I start to identify what those parts look like and how loud they speak. Like
Tell me.
some are very.
Sorry, go ahead. Some of them are very what?
No, I was just saying, like, some of them, even some of them are like, I imagine they're like these big, strong, massive, like Jack Reacher in the TV show, just huge people. And just because they're in my head doesn't mean they're all male either. They're all just different parts. So this big, strong, very obstructive, and there's other ones that are like really small. I see them as small and quiet. Like, there are sometimes those voices that are telling me things, or thoughts I'm having, are from the part of me that's kind of sitting in the corner and just saying the thing out loud, and seeing who, to be heard, or that's one that's fighting to be heard. Um, and so that's how I see the parts of me.
Mm. Tell me about your Christian part.
Um, I haven't identified a Christian part.
No?
It's
For something
no.
for like, I find that interesting that, like, there's no Christian part, even though that part of you has really, like, dominated a lot of your life, like, a lot of the decisions that you've made and a lot of the choices that you made, like, cursing, for example.
Mhm.
Like, that you like, you
Yeah.
don't curse, or, like, you
Yeah.
got your tattoo, but you're gonna hide it, like, you're gonna hide and you're gonna like, so that Christian part of you really was a huge part of your life.
The one what comes up a lot is the shame, the parts of me that are don't do this. A lot of it comes down to, don't do this. Don't participate in this activity. Don't, it's the voice that says you shouldn't do this, and it's because they're trying that part. is trying to protect me from feeling shame. So there isn't a part that I would specifically say this is the Christian part of me.
Well, what about your belief system? Like, because the Christian part, it all goes together. Like that's that. Not so much as a Christian part, more of a follower voice. That's true. That's true, Nev. That is true. I just like it's interesting because of course, like I said, I watched Inside Out too, and I'm actually doing
Hmm.
parts work in my therapy as well, and I likened it to I was like making a character sheet. She told my therapist
Hmm.
is like, I want you to make names. I want you to actually see them as people. And so for me, I
Hmm.
imagine them like in a boardroom. It's like not necessarily in size quite so much as just more like their personality. What person is going to show up in this boardroom and who like,
Yeah.
like all of that. And so I just find it interesting because for me there is like that Christian part. There is that part that shows up as like and when I see her I like imagine 1990s like hair
Oh,
like fucking
yeah.
lace collar like that type like almost
God.
like my
Shoulder pads.
but yes, of course, shoulder pads with the floral pattern, of course. Like, and
Oh
telling me,
God,
I
yeah.
feel like that's my trauma. And like, and also I don't know about yours, but mine is like talking about when did they show up? Because there's always going to be an event that is going to create
Hmm.
that part of you. Like, and I just found that very interesting. But it's like like, I was watching, and it's just one of those. The reason I ask about your Christian part is because
Hmm.
that part dominated my life for a good I mean, and it even when I left the church, and we were talking about leaving the church and how even at
Hmm.
like you were saying, after we left the church, it still affects us. That part of me didn't go away. That part of me
Hmm.
still there. Um, and how often I would still it was almost like okay, like they just stepped back from being like very visible, but like was that like behind the scenes type
Hmm.
manipulator. The one that part of me that was just like, you don't want to do that. You don't want to get that tattoo. Don't get that tattoo.
Yeah.
That's not
Yep.
and the you should be ashamed of yourself for liking
Hmm.
sex. I'm like, and like, oh, you need to be subservient because you're a woman. Don't show how smart you are or how good a leader you
Hmm.
are because that's not like that person. Like, that's how
Yeah.
I imagine it, and it's just like, I'm sitting here going, that bitch took over way too much of my life and still, like, even though she wasn't allowed a seat
Yeah.
at the table, she was still running shit. Like, like, get
She was
out of my
still
head,
she was
Brenda.
still in the
Get out of
room.
my head,
Yeah.
Brenda. Like, I don't need it. Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah. The boardroom, the meeting room, that's the first way that I learned to imagine to see it in my head was is all the parts have a seat at the table or are in the room. They don't always have a seat. They're not always sitting at the table, but they're in the room and they
We're in
speak
the
up. And
building.
it
They're at least in the
or
building.
there you go in
I
the
don't even
building.
say in
Yeah.
the room because in the room is like they still have a part, like, but they're in the building. You know,
Mhm.
they're
They're
in the
still there.
building.
Yeah.
They're there.
There's still a vibe
They're
when they're in the
still
building. There's
employed.
still a
We're still
vibe.
giving them a
They're still
paycheck.
yeah. Yeah. Um, and I think one of the hardest thing I had to learn is that um, ignoring the voices, ignoring the parts, is not the action to take. And he even said he because I come from a professional corporate business world mindset, so like that the big meeting room thing kind of makes sense to me. So he's like, so you ever been in a meeting? So what happened when you tried to suppress an idea and everybody ignored you? How'd you feel? Like, oh, I got like, yeah, the part of you that's trying to tell you something and you're ignoring it, that's how it feels too. And the more you ignore it, the louder it's gonna get. It's gonna get pissy.
That one. That
Yeah,
one. That one.
yeah.
Yeah.
Don't ignore the voice. He's like, so what do you do when someone in the meeting has an idea and that's not like you don't think it's a good idea? Do you just say that's a terrible idea? Sit down, shut up? No. How do you talk to that part of you? What do you say to them? And so I had to walk through that whole, I hear you. I appreciate that idea. Thanks for speaking up. I'm like, he's walking me through all of the ways you're supposed that you should talk to people
You
and
mean you should?
properly in a healthy way.
Yeah, that one. Yeah.
Yeah, the way that you talk to your friends or your family or your coworkers in a healthy way, that's how you talk to yourself. I'm like,
What?
no,
Shut up.
no,
No, we don't do that shit. We don't
Stop.
do that
I'm
healthy shit
done.
here. No. We do healthy shit with
You
other
want me
people.
to
We don't
treat
no.
myself, okay?
With respect.
No.
Fuck you. Like, yeah,
What?
that's
Yeah, absolutely. I
that's
got
the
your
part
respect.
in therapy when I'm just like,
Oh,
she's like, I think you need to treat yourself with a little bit more respect and a little bit more grace. And I'm like, I think you need to go shut up.
yeah,
Doesn't that make you angry? I don't know about anybody else.
yeah.
It may be you, but it does. It makes me angry because I wanted to not. For some reason, there's still this core belief in myself that I'm not allowed to treat myself with respect. I'm not allowed to make myself a
Yes.
priority. I'm not allowed to acknowledge those feelings, or that I need to be at fault for something, or that I need to admonish myself or blame myself or take on that responsibility.
hmm
Than I treat any other person. Exactly. Exactly. And
point.
that's the thing. And it makes me
Yeah.
angry. And it does. It makes me angry, and it makes me like super uncomfortable because it's so simple and it's so easy for me to do that with everyone else. I can sit and listen, to most people and be like, okay, and validate their feelings and listen to their
Mhm.
opposing ideas, or listen to that and then have a discussion. I have learned that skill, but I can't do the same for myself. And it's very, very frustrating because it's like, I know I can do it. I know that I have the skills and the opportunity. Like, I know I have those and can do it because I have demonstrated all of that mindset with someone else. Yet when it comes to myself and accepting myself, accepting my parts of myself, accepting that, speaking to myself, how I think about myself, I can't do it. It is not. And no matter how hard I try, like, usually after a minute, I can like go, okay, I need to validate myself. Like, I can stop it. But my first response is not that.
Yep.
My first response is to tell that part of myself to sit down, shut up, and
Shut up.
sit down and just shut up.
Yeah. You don't need to. You're only here as a courtesy. You don't need to be. You don't need to talk. You just need to know your role. Just sit down. And like
Say that again.
That's not.
Say
No,
that
I'm not
phrase
gonna do that.
again. Say, okay.
That's what I'm talking to my.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying. The parts in my head. That's what I have to be
Right.
careful about, especially as an intellect, because I do intellectualization. Because I'm quick to dismiss my own feelings, which is dismissing those parts. Dismissing the part is not the action to take. It's not the healthy action to take. So for me, it's I have to be to watch to be. Oh God, I'm not going to say that word. I have to be careful not to. I was going to say I have to be mindful, but I'm just going to stop using that word for a while
Why?
because social media has corrupted that word.
Oh. Now, I feel like mindful's okay.
Very,
I mean, I get it. I get it.
just don't say very with it, okay?
Because
what I'm gonna
mindfulness
try to avoid.
mindfulness
But-
is a thing. Like, it is literally
It is.
sections of lots of
Yeah.
therapy books. I'm
is.
sorry. I'm going to still use mindful. It's sort of like
Properly.
yes. It's like trigger and trauma and authentic. Oh my God. How many times have we heard, I want to be my authentic self? Like,
Authentic
fuck you.
self.
Okay. Or self-care.
Mhm.
Self-care. They've like social media is like just corrupted
Destroys
everything.
everything,
So
yeah.
like, you know what? Use it how you want to, and you can't control what everybody else thinks about it. So
But I have to be careful. I have to take the moment to pay attention to how I'm talking to myself, how I'm talking to those parts. Because my default for so long has been you're wrong. Talking to the parts of me, you're just wrong. No, you're wrong. Sit down. Shut up. You're done. And here, go stand over there. Go stand in the corner. And
that's
so
me in the corner.
corner.
That's me in the
Yeah.
spotlight, losing my religion. That was totally appropriate.
Which part of you is the music part? The one
Oh,
that's
there's
got
a
song for
total
everything?
musical theater geek standing right up there, and let me say, they're loud and proud. They loud and proud and have no problem. Yeah, we call them jukebox.
Well, so that's one thing I haven't done is I haven't named my parts aren't named. My parts have like I've given appearances and voices and all that stuff, but like I don't think I've actually named them.
Well, like
No,
my
wait, I had no, I did name. I think I did name a couple of them
well, I
early
mean
on.
that with my therapist, like she's like she wanted me to name them. She wanted me to personify them. She
That's
wanted, I mean, and
cool.
just because the way I think, I mean, I think that helps. Um, but the difference, and I asked her actually, this is part of my therapy last week. And I was explaining to her how because anger came up a couple times in the past because I suppress my anger a lot. Because
Mhm.
of my BPD tendencies. Like rage is a uncontrollable rage is a big part of it. Like and so I try not to, but like when I get triggered and how I immediately because you can't control it, like, you hit that rage so quickly without
Mhm.
control, and I was explaining to her how, like, I really do I'm scared of that part. I'm terrified, like, I am afraid of that part because that part is so uncontrollable for me,
Mhm.
and, shoot, we were walking through it because I was telling her, I was like, "Okay, name the parts and all of these," and I'm like, "Ugh." And she goes, "Well, you have to remember that a lot of times anger is a secondary emotion, and most of the times it's based in fear.
Mhm.
So, usually so you let that it's that fight or flight. And so that's the fight part of you. And the fight part of you, a lot of times you suppress it. And like your therapist said, over time, the more you ignore it, the more you say, nope, 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 even though it's healthy for you to feel angry and all of that stuff. After a while, eventually that part of you is going to get incredibly tired of not being heard, and they're going to be heard, and
Mhm.
usually it comes out at a very minor thing. Like
But in a very big way over a minor thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's where that stuff comes from. Is because I've been trying to ignore, suppress, and minimize without accepting what you're saying,
Right.
without accepting the part of me that's talking.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, absolutely. It's
And I think it comes out in a
fear.
I think it
Yeah,
comes out of a minor part because usually on the major parts, everybody's showing up to the table.
yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah.
Like,
All,
we're
all
as
all
we're
hands on deck.
all hands on deck, everybody's showing up, okay,
Yeah.
again, we're gonna go with this boardroom, symbolism.
Hmm.
Everybody's showing up in the room. But on a minor thing, it's just like, it's a couple email exchanges, it's a couple phone calls, it's a, "Hey, can I talk?" Like, this situation coming up. So not everybody's showing up. So the person,
Hmm.
the part of you that is regulating the anger is not there. It's like, all
Yeah,
of a sudden, it's like, "Bitch, I can do what I fucking want," and then all of a sudden, it just
it's that. Yes, it's that one part of you shows up. They're like, okay, I'm here. They're the only ones pulling the knobs. So, like, that's the response you're gonna get because it's just them, and
yeah,
there's no other part going. Okay, well, let's think about this for a moment. Okay,
yeah,
let's talk about this.
yeah.
No, they're just pushing buttons and pulling levers. Yeah, don't clip that.
Nope, nope. That one right there, here.
No, 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 no. God, oh God. Okay. Um,
You're pulling the knobs, is that what you're doing?
Oh, no, no. Not no, that's pulling okay, I'm gonna stop now.
Yeah, I
No,
was
do it
like,
again.
"You
No,
keep
do it
going
again.
because it's not gonna make it better."
Don't no,
Uh,
Repeating it, no.
no.
Um, with fear is at a fear is a core one for me. You know, I act a certain way. I feel like said anger or like I I don't wanna I base my actions. I'm gonna do this. I'm not gonna do that. And it's like, okay, so where's that coming from? Or like going to the one things I've been working on is like actually meeting people, talking to people, putting myself out there instead of just sitting at home by myself all day long and feeling the anxiety. Sitting by myself isn't necessarily the problem. It's when I feel isolated. Like, okay, well, what am I gonna do? So it's that okay. So what's the fear? Where's that fear? What am I afraid of? of meeting people, talking to people, playing games. Like, so it's sitting and listening to that. Okay, why do I feel this way? What is that fear saying? What am I afraid is going to happen? And then listening to that part of me that's talking and going, well, if you do this, this could happen. This could happen. There's so much future. It's so much about the future. What could, and it's like, well, this could happen and that could happen. I'm like, okay, okay, I hear you. I hear what you're saying. It could happen. Yeah,
We're gonna put a pin
sure.
in it, and we'll circle back
We're gonna circle back exactly. It's very corporate. It feels very corporate in my head. Um,
around. Mine, okay,
yeah,
I imagine Sean, like, this is how, like, because I am a very creative. I imagine Sean being like
hmm
Fortune 500, like JP
yeah,
Morgan boardroom, like, thing. I imagine
yeah.
my boardroom, my room being Google. Like, it's like, it has all of, like,
All
people
the
with
cool colors
all the
and
colors and
yeah,
like, yeah, you have like
beanbag
the
chairs.
big room with the windows, like any corporate but it's all like, yeah. You have all the
Like,
alternative seating and like you have like the
yes,
isolation
the yoga
pods.
balls. And
Yeah. Like I imagine that's the
I can
difference.
totally see that.
Sean's is like very like everything's like leather
Mine's
and very
sterile.
very corporate, very glass table or big mahogany table. And
Yeah.
mine's like, hey, they're doing hacky sack. They're like throwing
Hacky.
like
The parts of you are doing hacky sack. That's
and
great.
of course, like the the
hmm
conservative parts of me are just like, what the fuck are we doing? Stop that!
Yeah.
Like running around, like
Yeah.
bopping people with newspapers.
I can see that. I can absolutely see that.
Yeah.
I, I, there's parts of me that like to go. Are you sure you want to do that? Is that like I want to? I'm gonna go do this. I'm gonna go hang out. I'm gonna go meet somebody or go into some public. Are you sure you want to do that? You sure? Like not malicious, but it's like if you do that, this stuff could happen, or you might end up. And so it's talking. It's constantly for me. It's a very constant thing. It's talking to that and hearing that out, not dismissing it, and allowing that feeling to be there, and then choosing a different direction, choosing this is what we're gonna do. Yes, that could happen. We're gonna do it anyway. Taking the risk. That's a tough one for me. So yeah,
Yeah. Why is
yeah.
taking a risk tough for you?
Um, because I'm the golden child. I'm the perfect. I'm the one that didn't make mistakes, didn't mess up. So there's a fear of making mistakes. There's a fear of looking bad. There's a fear of people seeing me differently. People seeing me as imperfect. And so, what does that mean? What does that if people do see you? Okay, so and my therapist likes to go, okay, so what if they see you that way? What if that fear comes true? People do see you a different way. Then what? Then what? Oh, wait, hold on. I'm not ready for that step. I'm like, okay, so he said, what if you make a mistake? Or like, yeah, what if you make a mistake? Well, then people are gonna look people are gonna think I'm stupid. Okay. What if they do? Um, he said, does it change who you are? No. So does it, does it change your worth? Does it change your value? No. Okay. So you can't control what people think. So, is that, if you want to do the thing. People are going to think what they want. I'm like, no, I'm not ready for that. No, that's okay. But it comes from a lot of fear of being perceived a certain way, fear of not being perfect, because I felt I always had to be perfect. I always had to be what people expected me to be. So that's where the parts are trying to protect me from feeling a certain way. They're from feeling a lot of it comes down to I had this one hit me on Wednesday. Abandonment. Why am I afraid of people that'll think I'm stupid? Because then they'll walk away from me. They won't want to stick around. Ooh, the abandonment one is heavy. yeah, so that's where the part that's what the part is trying to protect me from dealing with those feelings and from dealing with that abandonment.
Gotcha. But it's not abandonment.
Yeah. No, it's just it's my perception because the parts of me know what no past experience. They're all speaking from past experience and I say all the for me the parts are speaking from past experience and extrapolating for the future. I'm afraid because this might happen because in the past this did happen. They've come about from my past experiences.
Hmm.
So, but just because that happened in the past doesn't mean that it's going to happen in the future.
Right.
And so I have to talk the parts of me through that.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
That must suck.
Yeah. Um, for me, there's a lot of protectors. That's what my therapist calls them. They're protectors. Um, one of the ones I ran into first was when I found myself getting frustrated about my emotions. Um, and so not only did I have a part representing those emotions, but I had a part representing that was protecting the emotions. And I walk through imagining or thinking about what that looks like, what that protector looks like, you know what that protector is saying to me. I wasn't he that protector was trying to keep me from feeling these emotions, protecting me from the emotions or the emotions from me. So not only am I dealing with those parts, I'm dealing with um the meta the meta emotions, the emotions about the emotions. That's where it starts to get deep for me.
Hmm.
Because I get like he's like so he'll say, how do you feel about this or what is this part saying? And then and I'll be talking about that emotion or that part of me, and he'll look at me and go, "Ooh, that right there, that your face just said something." I'm like, he's like, how you feeling right then? You're talking about this part of you, and you're expressing an emotion about that part of you. Yeah. He's like, you're feeling shame, but you're frustrated because you feel shame. Yeah. All right. So let's talk about that one. Why are you frustrated because you're feeling shame? Because that shame, that part of you is speaking out and is concerned. So I end up going to that, dealing with that a lot with the IFS.
Hmm.
So, yeah, it's a
Yeah.
lot of my therapy. Yeah, sorry, I just kind of went off on a.
Yeah, you did. I just gotta let you go.
I know.
It's fine. I mean, it's all like, I mean, that's all very things that like a lot of us deal with. Um, but it's one of those things where I actually asked my therapist this past week. I asked her, I was like, "What is the difference? What is the difference?" Like when I was talking again, it's talking about anger because we're addressing anger and
Hmm.
like all the secondary emotions like disappointment and how we're all and fear and et cetera and so forth. But it how I was like, what is the difference? Because because of like my mental illnesses and my trauma, I literally switch into um I literally switch into a different like my whole how I carry myself, how I talk, like my speech. Like a lot of times, if anybody who's actually seen me go from me to being me incredibly livid and angry, switch into that part of myself that is angry and just totally beside herself with like just rage. Can literally instantly know in my body language how I talk, my even my accent like completely changes. And I'm like, how do I like how is that different from? And that's why I was trying to be very clear about DID and dissociative
Mhm.
identity disorders. Like, how is that different? She goes, the difference is they are still a part of you. That is still you. You are still aware. You know that part is that part is taking control right now. That part is there.
Mhm.
Whereas in with DID and multiple personalities, a lot of times you are unaware. You literally, it's a full on
Gotcha.
switch. It is a full on separate person. But
Mhm.
in this parts work, when you're coming to, because I was telling her I was a little afraid to personify these people, because like if I personify these things, then does that mean that I separate themselves, that I separate them from me? And she's like,
Mhm.
no, it's not you separating yourself from you. It is you identifying that that is a part of you and giving them their own autonomy and
Mhm.
understanding. And that's how you can work them as a team instead of working like, okay, with just these random parts of you. That's how you can start working together with them. And she goes, that's still a part of who you are. So accepting that that's a part of who you are and understanding that they're going to be just you having to, it's just having to understand it and work, make them sure that they're working together as that team. Because right now, a lot of times they're working in their own little sections and departments, and one's taking, and so it's sort of like a little chaos right now. And in therapy, we're just identifying them and going, oh, this is Sally, and Sally is she's very fearful of this is your inner child. Sally's your inner child.
Mhm.
And so, her role is this. Instead of there's this random thing about myself, and then it's all like getting and not knowing what everybody's role and purpose is. And then just being appreciative of their role in your life. Because a lot of times, I don't know about you, before I started actually doing the parts work and identifying this stuff, a lot of times I'd be like, where the fuck did that come from? I don't know how many of y'all do this. I don't know how many, like, but if where the fuck did that
Yeah.
emotion come from? Where did that
Yeah.
where did that part of me come from? Like, yeah, I don't like, especially before I started doing intensive therapy. Like, where the fuck did that? Like, what was I thinking? How many times have you done that? What was I thinking? Why am I
Mhm.
feeling this way? Why? Like, and I'm still
Yep.
dealing with that, and so because my therapist is going, "Don't worry about the why. You don't have to attach a
Mhm.
meaning to it. It's just like, this is a part of you that is reacting, and that's
Mhm.
okay. There's no why. There's just going, "Okay, I see that you're in here. I see that you're
Mhm.
present. Okay,
Yeah.
we're just going to try to get to the other side. We're not gonna try to figure out
Mhm.
why. Right now, we're just gonna try and regulate." Like, it's like,
Yeah.
for me, regulation is very, um, because of how I have to approach my therapy because of everything. And so it's like, why? Finding out the why. Finding out the
Yeah.
why.
Oh,
And
you
it
love the why.
well,
Uh-huh.
and I also it's like finding out the why. Trying to find the why. Why did I feel this way? Why am I doing this thing? Why do I think is a defense mechanism? Because the
Mhm. Yep.
people in my life from childhood up until adulthood, the people in my life always needed to know why. And if I didn't know why, if I didn't have an explanation, if I didn't have it was actually worse for me because I didn't know why.
Mhm. Yeah.
And that fucking sucks. And it's hard. It's hard to
Mhm.
go, I don't know why. And that's okay because it was never okay. It's never okay. I had to have a reason. I had to have a why. I had to have a reason because I had to have a reason to either one, defend myself, two, explain
Mhm.
myself to somebody else so that they could understand, or three, a combination of both.
How you feel is not valid unless you can defend it in a court of law.
Yes.
That's how that I run into that a lot. If I need or want something. Well, if I can't explain why, like I was in a court of law, then it's not a valid. It's not valid.
Is it the why part of you, the lawyer part of you? Because that's how I see mine. It's the lawyer part of me.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay, I see that
That
you want to do that,
litigation.
but I need to know why. Okay, why are we going
Yeah.
to do this so that there's like so that we're not breaking any laws, we're not breaking any rules, so that nothing bad comes back and hurts us? That is like it's the
Yeah.
lawyer part of me.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Mm-hmm.
the defense
Yeah.
lawyer. It is
Yeah.
the
Mm-hmm.
That's really what it is.
It has to be it has to be an articulated, well thought out
Yes.
argument.
Yes. Yes.
Otherwise, it's not valid.
Okay, I'll give you a reason
Yep.
to cry. Oh, yup.
Whoa.
Oh, okay.
Woo.
Jay coming up
Oh,
with the
Jay. Okay,
trigger
Jay.
phrase. Trigger phrase.
Oh,
Thanks, Jay.
yeah.
Thanks. You just triggered everybody that lived between in the decades of the 80s and 90s. You go right ahead. That's good. That's cool. That's cool. Cool.
I'm gonna need a moment with my mug,
You're an emotional support bag.
which is fall festive.
Oh, look at so is mine.
Ooh. Yeah, yours is festive in a different way.
Fine.
Oh man, yes.
It's the blood of my wait, it's the
Oh.
blood of Christ.
Wow. Oh, yeah. No, Jay's is self defense. Self defense. Exactly, it's a self defense mug.
But okay, how many of us
Yeah.
have been with significant others who that was the case too? That got reinforced not only in our childhood of I'll give you something to cry about or the why were you doing this? Well, a lot of times, like especially okay, as a kid, they'd ask you, why did you do this? Well, because I wanted to, because as a child or a teenager, as a child, you just had impulse control. As a teenager, it was usually self expression. And you're like, I don't know why. I just wanted to try it to see what would happen. And like, there was no real reason. And as an adult, a lot
Mhm.
of times we're defending ourselves of why do you feel that way? Why do you think that way? Why do you do all this? And it's just like, because I do. Because.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then having to sit, oh, why are you doing that? Well, why would you say that? I don't understand. And you're just like, okay, well, let me try to think of the million ways that of reasons about why I would do that. And then you're not concentrating on the thing of that yeah, okay, acknowledging that. And then maybe later on you'll unpack it. But at the time, it's like because no matter what, it's like trying to find the why again is self-defense. It's defending yourself against everything.
It's being ready to have
Right. The
that.
argument. Get ready to go to court.
How many times have we tried to express a concern to a partner and they wanted the details. They wanted to know when did they last do this? How did this happen? When was the last time? Name a time when this they want to know all of it's like you're in a courtroom and you're having to defend you. I'm concerned that I felt this way. I felt this way, this happened and I felt this way. Well, I don't remember that. When did this happen? How many times does this happen? How many what is, why do you that's not what I meant. Like, and I'm speaking from experience because I've done this. I spent a lot of my life doing this. I know. I'm that one that went, well, that's not what happened.
Or you know.
I know I'm still dealing with that. Yeah. I know,
Okay. You're doing better. You are doing better. I am very proud of you. You are doing better. So
But I also I have my exes who did that too.
Mhm.
Like, whenever I think about this happens now, whenever I think about a concern in my head, I then go into this like I'm creating a brief, for the law. I start going, okay, so on this date this happened and this is what I felt and I start like having to create all of these bullet points of okay, before I bring my concern, I have to have all of this laid out in a perfectly succinct, articulable manner. Otherwise, oh well, it's not. It's not, like that's incredibly difficult and exhausting.
It is not always a red
Depends
flag.
on
It does depend. It's when, hey, it's all in like anything when in regards to expressing uncomfortable emotions
Mhm.
or uncomfortable situations. I have found it really does depend on how you ask. It is on
Yes.
how you word it and how you ask. And is how you are asking accusatory or
Hmm.
defensive? If they're like,
Ooh.
"Hey," if and it's all about word and tone and verbiage.
Hmm.
So like Sean said, tell me when I've done this. Tell me when I have done this. Like, what do you mean? That becomes
Yeah.
off as a very um not wanting to hear that of times that they've done it and they've made you feel this way, so that they can change it.
Hmm.
That is more of a tell me when I've done it so that I can defend myself and tell you how you're
Hmm.
wrong. That is not
Hmm.
a majority of the time. That is how that statements like that come off. But when you say, okay, I hear you. Um,
Hmm.
I I am not aware of doing those things. Can you give me some examples of times that you have felt this way so that I can that I can be more aware of that? So that I can
Hmm.
see where you misinterpreted it versus what I am doing so that I can self-evaluate and self-inquiry and be mindful of that.
Jay,
Yes.
absolutely.
Yes.
Defensive. I call it curiosity. Defensiveness versus curiosity.
Yes.
Are you approaching it as that defensive? Tell me so I can defend myself, or is it like help me understand? Like I really, honestly, in good faith, want to understand
Right.
what happened and your feelings about it, and
But
also
you
the order. Sorry, go ahead.
Yes, but you can't, it runs along that, but you can't be inquisitive to be defensive. You
Good point.
cannot be inquisitive to be so tell me,
Don't.
okay, so I wanna know. And then later on, you're like, "Well, you told me this. You told me this." Like, no, 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 no. You can't
Yes.
use it as a defense later on. Being inquisitive,
Hmm.
questioning is about constructive and taking ownership. That even though you didn't intend to make them feel uncomfortable, bad, jealous, whatever, you did not intend that,
Hmm.
and they have to do their own work too. Maybe it is
Hmm.
something that you can't change. Maybe it's a behavior or a thought pattern or a situation that
Hmm.
you can't change. However, like, okay, say for example, your partner is feeling neglected or disconnected or lonely because you're working a lot. It's a lot.
Hmm.
And they're just very focused in on their job and they're focused in on this thing. And they come to you and you're like, okay, I hear you. Can you name some examples of when those that you felt I know you're feeling it now, but those some examples of when you really needed me and I wasn't there for you because of my job.
Hmm.
And they'll give you examples. Now, don't go, well, at that point, being inquisitive is good. But then when you hear the times, you can't just go, well, I couldn't do anything about that. That was an emergency meeting and I couldn't do anything about that. And giving them, and because that's invalidating. What you can do
Hmm.
is go, okay, well, those are situations that I can't control, but how can I help you in situations that I can't control? How can
Hmm.
I help you feel connected? What is like some ways that I can control other than not showing up, not working that I can do? Maybe after I'm done
Hmm.
working, what can I that it opens up a dialogue of explaining that you can't control this situation, but you can do things either before, after that will help. And that's where you work together as a team.
Hmm.
But I really
That's the big
hate
difference
yes,
right
it's a
there.
huge difference. I really hate the, "Well, tell me examples," and you tell them, and then
Hmm.
they defend themselves again. It's like all of a sudden
Yes.
it's like
Yes.
setting you up to feel safe. It's like that trap. It's like that trap. And then
Yeah.
you wonder why I don't say anything to you because it doesn't matter what I say, whether you come at me aggressively and defensively or you become
Hmm.
acquisitive and I just fall into that trap later. Like it's
Yeah.
I'm no matter what I'm going to do, you're just going to defend yourself and I'm going to be wrong. And then
That's what go ahead.
And then the
Mhm.
lawyer part of me goes, fuck it. Like, the lawyer part of me is just like, okay, wait, you know what? That's when it
We're-
kicks into high gear. Don't come up until we have irrefutable
Yep.
evidence that they can't
Absolutely.
defend.
Yeah. And then when you do have that, they're like, "Well, it's like you're keeping score."
Oh,
Well, the only way I can bring something up to you is because I kept score. Like, Ah, that yeah, my ex
I
right
have a
there.
bookie. I have like a bookie. Like whenever I have, not only I have a defense lawyer, there's a bookie. It's like, what are the odds? What are the odds?
What's the over
What are
under
the
on
odds?
this
The
one?
over under. It's like this is a long shot. Is this worth the long shot? Or is it just going
Oh,
like, nah, just
nah,
pass for
this
today?
ain't worth it.
Yeah.
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 Oof.
That's the part of me that's a
Those
bookie. That's
aren't
like
those aren't
with this
healthy
iPad.
parts of you.
That's like, okay, here are the odds today. You
I'm
1,000 to
gonna do.
1. You
Let's do
ain't
the
winning
math.
this one. Yeah. It's a
No, please
50-50
don't have
shot. You
me.
know what? Go for it. You know what? You might have a
Yeah.
chance. This could go one of two ways. So you know what? You got a good chance. Like there's the lawyer's like
Mhm.
the lawyer's like, here's the
Wow.
evidence you need. Yeah.
That's yeah. Tell me you got a defense mechanism without telling me you got a defense mechanism. That's it right
Yeah.
there. Those things. That's the reality of our lives. That's the reality of our what
Yeah.
happens in our relationships sometimes,
Yeah, that
and
was
what our past might look like.
I
Yeah,
think that's a lot of things.
we we don't like being wrong. We don't like hearing that we did something
Exactly.
wrong and so it's natural for us to have that. But that doesn't mean that that's what we're supposed to be bringing to our relationships. That doesn't mean that's how we're supposed to respond. That's a healthy way to respond just because that's what we've learned to do. Or is what is innate in us. Um, so the the curiosity has to be, as you said, it's us against the situation. It's us against the problem, the concern, not me versus and so when the curiosity is a curiosity like a lawyer leading the witness,
Mm-hmm.
that's not in good faith.
Mm-mm. Mm-mm.
It's it's curiosity as I see it more as curiosity as how did my actions affect you? Can you help me understand how did what I do make you feel that way? Or, why did it's curiosity about that part, not curiosity of what are the exact details so I can refute the details.
Right. Right.
Yeah, that's a tough one. And as someone who is who is very defensive, I yeah, and it's like yeah,
Every
that was a that was like
single
the first.
time.
Oh,
Every
and
time.
it's yeah. Don't badger the witness.
Oh God.
Oh,
You're gonna give me some PTSD. You're gonna be some trigger trauma. But okay. Speaking
mhm,
from personal experience as somebody who is also a very defensive person, and it doesn't make it okay. I am not excusing this behavior. I am not excusing this mindset. I want to make that very clear. None of this is okay. None of this is a healthy way. But and nor should you take this as a reason to forgive somebody when they're making you uncomfortable or let things slide if they're making you
mhm,
uncomfortable. Um, but as somebody who's very defensive, usually a lot of times defensiveness is a secondary emotion, just like anger.
mhm,
So at that time, why am I feeling defensive? 9 times out of 10, I am feeling defensive because I am feeling either one, not heard, or
mhm,
two, I am feeling ashamed or I'm feeling not good enough. I am feeling very insecure. So, a lot of
mhm,
times when I am defending myself, it is not because I think like it's like I have to be right or I have to prove the other person wrong. Most of the time, it is stems from fuck that they are coming to me. I fucked up and now I'm feeling like less than a person. I am feeling like a
yes,
failure. I am feeling like I am not good enough. I am feeling like I have like and shame and I am feeling that insecurity. So instead of
mhm,
sitting in the uncomfortable, my instant thing is to defend myself to again that part of me that's
mhm,
going and that's usually the lawyer part of me to protect myself and a lot of these come
yeah,
to protect myself. It's a coping mechanism.
yep.
I don't
That
want
part
to
of you is like, yeah, I got it.
right. That part of me is
Mhm,
going not going to let this happen, not today, not going to let you feel
mhm,
like shit. Let's and it comes at a cost. Everything comes at a cost. Those billable hours add up. Like, it's like but that's when I am defensive. Now that's not coming for everyone. That is a lot of
mhm,
from my self-inquiry and my why do I get defensive? It's most of the time I get defensive because I feel unheard. I feel unworthy. I feel insecure. Um, and I and I have to recognize that in other people. And I think recognizing what defensiveness really is. Now, some people are defensive because they don't want to be wrong. That, and not and it's everybody has their own reasons for being defensive. But a lot, I mean, and you can't sit there and go, okay, they're being defensive for whatever reason, they're protecting themselves, and then just let it go. Because over time, it's like if you can't be honest and transparent without that person instantly hitting you with defensiveness, then that is going to negatively affect you and your emotional health and your mental health and your relationship with that person.
Yeah.
And then it doesn't become an honest relationship, friendship, whatever, relationship.
hmm
It just becomes one of you saying the thing and just letting things slide. And then you end up not saying the things that you need to say. And then it becomes and then because it always catches up to you, then when that situation comes and no, I've always felt this way, they become surprised. And like, what do you mean you've always felt this way? I mean,
That's where I felt blindsided. Like that's where that usually comes from.
yeah.
Somebody wasn't paying attention, or somebody wasn't speaking up. But why weren't they speaking up? A lot of times it comes into, I know that was my relationship. I As defensive as I know I have been with you since we rebooted in our conversations, like I know I was that, if not worse, in my marriage, because I had to have been, because there's no way I was better, because that was before I was really getting good therapy. I was handling therapy well, and getting the most out of therapy. So like I know that's where I wasn't creating a safe space. I was invalid. I'm sure I was invalidating my ex left and right because I was defensive, and I didn't want to admit that I had gotten something wrong, or that because if I was wrong, I was less than. That's where I was coming from. Is if I did something wrong, if I messed up, then that I'm a less than. That hits me as a person, like to my character and to my worth. And so that part of me is like speaking up, going, nope, nope, we cannot, that cannot abide. We cannot let that person attack your worth as a person. So to defend my worth as a person, I yeah, you better believe that defensiveness kicked up, and put that shield down, and I drew that spear or whatever, because you get defensive and then you attack. Sorry, that's just where my brain went.
Like,
I
what?
went 300.
It's
I
like,
went
yeah, you
300.
would all like get the shield and spear. I'm like, okay. All right, sure. I mean, you do you, Pep Pep. I mean, for
Uh,
Valhalla, I don't
yeah,
know.
yeah,
Like,
exactly. See, there you go.
yeah,
But that's where my defensiveness a lot of times came from.
yeah.
Is I felt worthless. I felt shame and guilt and worthless, and
Do you
I
feel
didn't
like
want
that
to feel
stemmed
that
a
way.
lot from like that defensiveness stemmed a lot from your golden child issues?
Yes, I had to be perfect, or I had to be what other people expected of me.
Yeah.
And if I wasn't, it was there. If I wasn't that, if I wasn't perfect, if I wasn't golden, anything, if I did something wrong, that meant I wasn't. It means I was imperfect, and that hit went directly up against the need to be perfect.
Mhm.
It destroyed that persona that I was living by, and so I couldn't be wrong,
It's interesting.
even if I was. Yeah.
It's interesting that because like I was always defensive because I could never do anything right. I could never do anything right because I was the
hmm
black sheep. I was always
Yeah.
like I've said before, the biggest family joke was World War III is gonna be your fault. Everything that went wrong was my fault. Everything.
hmm
I was too
Yeah.
much. I was too emotional. I wanted too much. I needed too much. And I'm like, okay, like everything we were sometimes we were in financial straits because I wanted to go do something, or, my parents would give me shitty cars and it would be like, they would break down and they would have to fix it, but it was my fault because I needed a vehicle to drive to school because you wouldn't drive me anywhere. Like, it's like, uh, it was my fault for the
Yeah.
choices other people made. So,
Yep.
yours was always the expectation of you couldn't be wrong. You can never be
hmm
wrong. And mine was always the
Yep.
defensiveness of, because I was always going to be wrong. And so it's just
Yep.
like I had to defend myself just for existing. Like,
hmm
I had to give
Yeah.
reasons why it wasn't my fault. You had to give reasons about why it couldn't be your fault,
hmm
And yeah.
I learned how to. We've run into this in our conversations because you think you pointed it out to me several times. Is
Am I gonna get triggered?
um no,
Okay.
I don't think so. This is um I couldn't be wrong. So I began splitting hairs. Well, I may not be right, but I'm not wrong.
It's always, yeah, here, in case, here, I'm gonna give you I'm gonna give you a
Oh,
cheat code for
I'm
Pep Pep.
calling myself out
I
on
know.
this
I'm
one.
giving y'all a cheat code for Pep Pep. So if ever you want to talk with him and he ever does this to you, just know. I'm gonna give you a nice little warning for you. It is always when it's like a word. It is always the word. He focuses in on one word that is like, well, you said blank. But he's like, I find that the same. That's the same type of word when it's not the same word, but he is like trying to make it the same word.
When
It's,
I
yeah.
when I start arguing semantics,
Yes. Oh,
that's the
they're
trigger
the
for
same
I am
thing.
trying
It's the same
desperately.
word. It's the same type of word. When you said, I don't know, when you said like
Mhm.
something, I don't know, like there was what I remember you were just so defensive about one word. And I'm
Mhm.
going, are you
Mhm.
fucking kidding me right now? You were like, he was like angry. He was like yelling at me. And I was like, are you fucking kidding me right now? This is what you're gonna argue with about a word? Okay. There you go. Yeah, when he started talking about like loopholes, little semantics, like little things that are
Yeah.
inconsequential. Yeah. Yeah. That
I've lost and I'm trying to defend my self-worth when I start arguing the semantics. Because I'm okay with you being right. I just can't be wrong.
yeah. Yeah.
That's what I'm fighting at that point. Yeah, that's me. Yeah.
I don't know how many our fights have extended like 30 minutes longer than they should have because he is like, I'm usually like, okay, we're just gonna drop it. And he just keeps going. I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, if you want the final word, fine. But I know I'm right.
Yeah. Good times. Yeah. All right. So that's what whenever that's one thing that I've really been trying hard to work on is responding to when someone's voices a concern or tells me how they felt about something that I did is I still feel defensive, but it's managing it's me quickly going, okay, so I'm feeling defensive. That's that's natural, but how am I going to respond to this? And kind of working through that, writing that defensiveness and still responding in a healthy way. Because the focus is not whether or not I screwed up or did something wrong. The focus is how what I did made the other person feel. Because feelings are never wrong. They are that's one thing I've had to learn. Because my feelings are wrong all the time. Ooh, that's where that comes from. Oh, dang. Okay. So as an intellectualizer, my feelings are often wrong. And so I think I'm projecting that into other people that no, you that's wrong. That feeling is wrong. Feelings are never wrong.
Mhm.
You don't have to agree with what happened to accept that the other person's feelings are valid.
But I also in that aspect for me, my feelings are so valid. Yes, and that's exactly it. For me, because of
Yes,
my
absolutely.
BPD tendencies and all of that,
hmm
my feelings aren't always accurate. My feelings
hmm
aren't the truth. My feelings, they are valid, they exist, but that doesn't
Mhm.
mean that my feelings are reality. And that's okay.
Ooh,
And
that's a
that's a
good one.
hard one for me because as somebody who their feelings literally are the thing that control everything and having to go in the DBT of finding that logical mind because my emotion mind and you're working to try to get to that wise mind, which is right there in the middle. But a lot of
Mhm.
times my emotion mind takes control and I have to, and that doesn't mean it's right. It doesn't mean that it's right. And a lot of times Sean's logical mind is the one that's like, oh, the logic mind's right and the emotion one's wrong. And it's not it. It's having
Mhm.
to find that just because I'm feeling this emotion, though it is very valid, does not mean that it is the truth.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
I have to be careful with how I perceive that emotion. Because a lot of times I feel jealous. Okay, well, is that based in reality? Is that, or am I
Mhm.
feeling jealous because I have something to be jealous of? Or am I feeling jealous because I got triggered and a wound got poked at and I am now
Mhm.
feeling jealous as a reaction to something else? And
Mhm.
I've had to learn how to deal with that, and it's very hard, and I don't get it right. I don't get it right, and I don't want anybody to think that I've gotten any of this shit right because I don't have the parts right. I have the wrong part take control all the motherfucking time, and it's like, oh, it's hard. It's not terrible. I mean, sometimes it is, but it's hard. It's hard, and I
It
don't always
is.
get it right. And, like, it's just like when a part takes control or takes, uh, a part overwhelms and
Mhm.
calls the shots, and it's a wrong thing to do. It causes damage or it's unhealthy or unhelpful.
Mhm.
Just like when somebody in a corporate organization does makes a mistake, you gotta reconvene and go, okay, how are we going to do damage control? How are we going to fix the
Mhm.
problem? How are we going to, okay, so this, we acknowledge and accept that this is not the way it is. Now all the parts come together and go, and they work together and going, okay, first off, why did this happen? Second, why did that part feel
Mhm.
the need to take over? Third, what
Mhm.
are we going to do to try to heal this situation? And then how
Mhm.
can we be more aware if this situation happens again? And that's hard. That's a lot of shit to keep up with.
That is.
Being
Yeah.
healed sometimes is way more brain power than it is just to react.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it is. Well, because those reactions don't require brain power. That's the thing. Those connections in our brain that allow us to to move that quickly, they're built over time, and so it's easy to think that way. Now, the hard part is what happens after that, because you have that reaction, and then you can do some real damage.
Right.
And so that's the hard part, for if you make that choice. Whereas if you pick the hard on the front end, going, okay, I'm going to work through this. I'm going to deal with these, talk about these parts. The easier comes after. It's hard in the short term, but as you heal through it, I don't want to say easier. It gets easier. It becomes more manageable, I think. So yeah,
Nerdy Will,
it's
you
exhausting.
and Sean is
Mhm.
it's very much like that. It's
Yeah.
Sean's the same way. And there's a lot of people like that. I mean, like, and I think that that's what makes our show very balanced is because like we very different mindsets on how we handle things. And
Absolutely.
same problems, different angles,
Yeah.
different thought process, different way of dealing with things. And that's fine.
Hmm.
I think that that's where I've struggled the most actually is because I've surrounded myself with people where it had to make sense. They had to understand it. It had to have a reason and a 5-point plan and a whole, well, why did you do this or why do you feel this way? And I had to have like a minimum of 3 to 4 reasons and they had to understand to make it okay. And it's like I don't and for somebody who with that type of abandonment issues, mental illness, and whose emotions just literally take over and you don't understand, you don't know why. It just is. It's
Yeah.
hard. It's so hard.
Mm,
And it doesn't make sense.
uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah. can I say something that might possibly trigger?
Sure, go ahead.
So I am speaking about myself, but it could trigger you. I could trigger because it's what part of what makes the difficulty it's so difficult about having the argument, the lawyer, like we've talked about. You're not when I'm trying to come up with all of these reasons as to why it's okay for me to feel this way. It's not that I'm trying to convince myself. I have to convince the other person. I have to make them understand. It's not enough for me to understand why I felt that way. I have to make them understand why I felt that way, because if I can't make them understand it, it's not valid. They have to understand it. How many times have you been on the other side of it and they're like, "Well, I just don't understand." It's not your responsibility to understand my feeling.
Nope, nope, nope. I'm out. Bye.
I did preface that. I
I mean,
did.
you're right. You're right. You're right.
Because that was my ex. My ex all the time, whether it was emotions or whether it was putting together IKEA furniture or driving somewhere. I don't understand why you went that way. I don't understand why you did that. I don't understand. I don't understand. And it wasn't like I don't understand. It's in like, okay, you have a totally different perspective, and that's okay. I don't understand it, but that's okay. No, that wasn't it. It was I don't understand, so you're wrong. I feel this way. Well, I don't understand. Sorry, Ah, that's the struggle that I have to voice my
Listen, bitch.
opinion. I'm just being real. Just being,
I mean,
just,
you're right.
just-
You're right. You're right. I mean, you're not
It,
wrong.
that is a really
Yeah.
difficult one.
Yeah.
So
And here's the hard part about that. Even if the lawyer kicks in and you give a 50 valid points about why you did the thing that you did, it still doesn't matter because you can't control the other person. You can't make them see. And usually when they're like that, they're like, I don't understand. I need to understand. They don't want to understand.
they don't, because what they're trying to understand is not for them to understand. The only thing that needs to be understood is something happened and you felt a certain way. That's all there is to understand. That's it. Everything else is the minor stuff.
Yeah.
You talk about after. You get to that after. And that's my mistake. I would do that first. For me, it wasn't dealing with the validation first, it was defending myself first. Then if I defended myself properly, then we could decide whether it's valid or not. Completely the wrong way to do that.
What?
So very wrong.
What? Our part
Oh,
but you have to understand, and it's like
yeah.
Inside Out. I mean, for anybody who's seen Inside Out, just Inside Out 2, it's very much like everybody has their own parts. Everybody has those emotions and thoughts in their own control center. And you
Mhm.
can't make somebody like for example, like my favorite at the end is like the mom's just like the mom like Riley says something, "Oh, it was fine." And then you cut into the mom's control center and all her parts are going, "What does she mean? She was done. What do you mean it's just fine? What are all these things? Like, what do you like? Why didn't she just talk to us? Why do her brain and her thoughts are going all crazy?" The dad hears the same thing and he goes, "She's gone for 3 days and all she can say is fine." I mean, okay, somebody turn on the game. And like that's like you have to understand
Yeah.
that just everybody's different. Everybody's parts are different. Everybody's like how they function in their brain is different. Even if like you have the same mental illness or yes, there are certain things, but you have to understand that your experiences and your traumas and your thought process and your personality are all unique. And
Mhm.
you have to embrace that, you know?
Yeah. You want to respond to Nerdy Will? You want me to?
You said a
Nerdy
wrong
Will's like,
way.
what's the right way?
Wrong
What's
way
the
to
right way?
what?
Are you talking about responding when someone says that
Hold on.
they're upset?
You asked that question. I'll be right back.
Okay. So yeah, so Nerdy Will, you're talking about the wrong way being if someone says, "Hey, you did this thing happened, and it upset me or bothered me or I felt a certain way." Express an emotion. Is that what we're talking about? because I said the wrong way was, yeah, okay. So emotions are never wrong, regardless of whether they're logical or not. Emotions are not wrong. So, and the emotions are always valid. Um, so it doesn't matter whether you felt that they are justified or not. The emotion happens. So the first step is to always validate the emotion. And there's a lot of different phrases that you can use to convey that. And honestly, I've learned a lot from. There's a couple therapists on TikTok of all places that I highly recommend. Yeah, right. Emotions are always valid. I struggle with that, but I'm practicing to always validate. Yeah, that is the first step. Nothing else matters but validate. Because if validation doesn't happen, then the other person is probably going to they're going to get defensive. They're gonna it's you've re-triggered a hurt, or you've hurt again, because not only are they upset about the first thing, they're now upset because they feel like they feel invalidated. So you've actually compounded the concern, and now you're going to be dealing with. And I speak from personal experience because up until recently, I've been very guilty of that. So you go from one argument to now you have a compound argument, conversation, whatever. So you now have to address the invalidation before you can even get back to the original thing that the person was upset about. So there's a if you look at, there's some people on, some therapists that do a lot of content. Matthias J. Barker is one. The other is Jimmy. I forget his last name. Just such fantastic content. Talking about how to handle disconnects, how to handle those discussions, when and how to validate, make sure that you are validating the other person's emotions. Um, and what I had to learn is that you can disagree with what the details of what happened, but the details, but that's irrelevant to the validation. Regardless of the details, the emotions are valid.
But I want to know
Um,
that TikTok and social media therapists are not, not a replacement for therapy.
that's
They
correct.
are
Absolutely.
not. Yes, they are great resources. They are great,
Hmm.
like, hey, something to think about and bring up in your next therapy session. But too many
Yes.
people use these fucking TikTok, Instagram
Hmm.
therapists, like 30 second as a replacement for therapy.
Yeah,
These help.
they're
It
not.
is not a replacement for therapy. Period. End of story. Yes, they are licensed
Yeah.
professionals, but do not fucking do that. Like, yes, they are just
Hmm.
like, huh, it's something to think about. And let me bring that up in my next therapy session. So
Yeah.
making that very
Thank you
clear.
for absolutely, yes.
Because he's over here like, oh
TikTok is
great, it's
not a
like
replacement.
it is not it. It is a nice thing to think about. It's a
Mhm.
nice brain teaser, maybe a nice little resource of, huh, I didn't think about that. Maybe I'll try it and see, and maybe I can talk
Mhm.
about it with my therapist later, but do not take TikTok therapist as fucking therapy.
Correct.
So many people take that as, well, I saw this. It's like, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely.
So many people like, and I get it. I 100% understand that therapy is expensive. I understand that
Mhm.
not a lot of people can afford it, and that's a huge, like, that's a lot. I could go on to a rant about that, but yes, I understand that. I understand that sometimes that's all you have, but I mean, please just understand that that is not a end all be all source for your mental health,
Mhm.
because that could be more damaging because everybody has their own opinions and they're going to put that out there on the internet.
Mhm.
So I'm not saying that these people are wrong because I follow them and I like their content as well. However, I
Mhm.
don't use that as my sole source of therapy. I use it as
Yeah.
a talking point. I use it as it's like a journal prompt. I use it as a,
Mhm.
that's interesting. Yeah, maybe I'll think about
Yeah.
that. So, but yes, Sean is right. Everything that Sean said was correct. So, uh,
And it's not and it's not easy. It's not something that you can just flip on and off. See, that's the thing about the TikTok therapist. Like you said, it's a good idea, but just listening to someone, just listening to a TikTok, an online therapist say something, doesn't mean it's going to that you can't just hear that and go, okay, I'm going to use that and everything's going to be great now. No, doesn't work like that.
Because yeah,
And
because those are good tools. Those are good
yes,
self-awareness tools. Just like
hmm
you would, for example, this is a good example. Like you go onto YouTube and watch a
hmm
tutorial on how to fix a leak, a leaky
hmm
faucet. Like, and yes, you
hmm
learn the skill, you learned that skill online, but that is not a somebody teaching you and understanding why that happened, where it came from, other
hmm
tricks and things that you could, maybe some other things that in case that trick didn't work, what else does that can you help to and so just
yeah,
that think of it that way. Yes, it can be helpful. I'm not saying it can't be
hmm
helpful, but there's not a long-term solution.
yeah, hmm absolutely.
Yes.
Just because you watch someone do it doesn't mean that you know how to do it and you can do it and you understand the nuances of it. And
Yes.
yeah,
This episode sort of went like this, so it's fine.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I mean, it all sort of went. What's your
Uh,
main? What is the CEO part? We're gonna
oh,
close with that.
mm, who's the CEO of the round table?
Yeah.
Well, I can tell you who I'm attempting to uh,
The throne.
I'm attempting to vote out the CEO.
Yeah.
I'm attempting to usurp to dethrone. It is um, ooh, actually no.
That's a hard one, right?
That is that
Yeah.
it's kind of starts to feel more like a board of directors than necessarily like the CEO. It's like there's the part that's protecting me from
Okay, so instead of CEO, what's the part that's usually the
yeah.
loudest? The one that, like,
Oh,
that person that's in the board meeting that
yeah.
always talks,
Always. Yes.
always talks, and you're just
That's
like,
that's really what it is.
yes,
Yeah, they're
that's
like,
okay. So that's a better way to.
okay.
Yeah, what's the one that's always
Um,
talking, and you're like, shut up! Like this is not like no.
you're the you're gonna fail. You're not good enough. It's the failure. The f-
Insecurity.
the fail. The yeah. It's the I want if I want to go learn something new. It's like you're not gonna do it right. You're gonna suck at it. You're not gonna do very well of it. And you're gonna feel bad. You're gonna feel guilt or shame. It's that part that's trying to protect my self worth. I think that's what it is. Don't do these things because it's not gonna go well, and then you're gonna feel terrible.
So
You're
it's
gonna
your
feel like
perfectionism.
there you go.
It's your perfectionism.
Ooh, yeah,
Your
yeah. There you
perfectionism.
go.
You don't try anything, do
Yeah,
anything, or you don't want to mess up because you don't want to be not be. So it's your perfectionism. Okay.
that's the loud voice. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah. See, there's the meta emotion right there. There's the frustration and the like, ooh, the feeling about that's the meta. Like, oh, am I okay with that? Mm, yeah. All right. What's yours?
What's mine? Mm.
Yeah.
Um, it would have to be my abandonment. It would have to be my abandonment, my fear of abandonment. What? Because that literally is the core of real my fear. It's fear, but it's
Mm,
not just fear because I'm afraid of a lot of things, but it is my fear of abandonment.
sure.
That's the thing that is the thing that speaks up almost every single time. It always has something to say, which makes
Yeah.
sense. Somebody with, my
Yeah,
attachment
it does.
issues. That's fine. But yeah, and neglect and all of that. So my fear of abandonment.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha. All right. Whew, that's a good question.
Yeah.
That's it.
I'm always curious. Like, what's the voice? What's the
Yeah.
voice that you hear the most of? Right?
That is. See, I thought it was I thought it might abandonment. Abandonment does have a strong voice, but like there are things that I'm afraid that the voice of the perfectionist voice speaks up even when I'm alone. That's why I knew it's not abandonment. Is because abandonment would be if other people were involved. But for me, it's like I want to do something. I want to learn something in the privacy of my own home that nobody else is aware of. So why don't I do it? The perfectionist voice speaks up. That's the strong voice.
Well, and for me, if I want to do something that I'm afraid of, like, usually it's not me failing of trying something. It's
Mhm.
me trying something, and then what is somebody else going to say about it? Because if they don't approve of it, then that person. So it's
Ooh,
absolutely my fear of abandonment. So it's
gotcha.
like my fear
Yeah.
of trying something new is not necessarily the trying and failing or trying something new, because I find that very exciting. I'm like, if I fuck it
Mhm.
up, whatever, it'll be an experience. It'll be a story. It is always, if I try this thing, if I do this thing, what is this person or that person or anybody going to be thinking
Mhm.
about that? Because if they don't approve of it, then what are they going to think about me? And if they think bad about me, then I'm going to be alone. I'm going to be judged.
Yep.
And if I'm going to get judged and I'm not doing what they did, then they're going to leave me and I'm going to be alone.
Mhm.
Yay, trauma.
Yay! Whew.
Anyway, and with that, okay, so that was a good one. So we started off with me coming after Sean, but Sean's meds kicked in, so it's fine.
Yeah, they did, didn't they? All right, so note to self: I'm gonna go put my pill case on top of my counter in my bathroom. Oh, good stuff.
I am surprised that you don't leave yourself more notes than you do.
I do. They're digital.
But see, that's the problem. You're not always on your phone.
Yeah, yeah. I do have notes. I have notes pinned to the background of my phone or to the desktop of my phone. That with stuff on there. I do.
But not in the bathroom.
But no, not the bathroom. It's fun. What's funny is that there are certain times where I use the skills, like leaving something out. But then there are other areas where I abandon the skill. Like,
Yeah.
why am I not? I mean, why am I not using that skill there when I use it everywhere else?
Well, what do you mean? You mean like validating your own feelings and
Yes, exactly.
and treating yourself with kindness? What?
Oh my god!
Okay.
And we've come full circle.
There we go. We put a pin in it, and it came right back around. There we go.
And now we
did.
pulled the pin back out.
Yeah,
and
there we
stabbed
go.
it with it.
We pulled the pin out, and it's like a grenade. All right.
Lord.
Thank you for joining us on Waking Up. And thank you for all our community for being here. And I hope you have a great Sunday. Don't let the Sunday scaries get to you.
Yeah.
And enjoy the rest of your day. So we'll talk to you
Absolutely.
later.
All
Bye.
right. Bye.
Did you really just high five over me right
No,
now?
we didn't. You can
And we're live. Hello.
Wait, last week
You don't even do that well from the front seat.
Okay. And the bear's coming with the cup and spoon.
That's
Oh,
a straight up
no.
PBR for the table.
Yeah, 3 out 3.
I think it called